Minutes past the hour of 9. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. We'll change gears right about now, but best believe we're still heavy on the issue of galamsey. I said it this morning, it affects you and I. Don't think you're far removed from the action. I told you this morning, it's in the food that you're eating. It's in the water that you are drinking. In fact, it's in the air that you're breathing. Beatrice Annan is a spokesperson on the John Dramani Mahama 2024 campaign. She joins me here in the studio. Beatrice, good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy you're hosting, you know.
This is our first one-on-one, I believe.
Yes.
I saw you nodding your head to the music. Do you ever get tired of the songs?
I think that the NDC's anthem, I don't know how to describe it. There is that spirit behind it. You know, when you're listening to your favorite worship song and how you feel so inspired. I think that there is something beautiful about the anthem. And it's not because I'm NDC.
I was going to say.
No, other people who are not NDC have said that. And you know, we are the only political party with an anthem. So it gives a whole vibe. And you can't be tired of listening to it.
I see. Yeah. There are other songs to rival that, but that's just my opinion. There are different parties. They have some catchy music.
Other people have catchy music.
Yes.
But they don't have an anthem.
Okay.
You know, an anthem is something that shows respect, our collective struggle. If you listen to the words carefully, development, our goal, and that has been the overriding consideration for many of the decisions we've made. We don't claim perfection as a political party, but certainly in our quest to make things better, in our quest to give people a richer and better life, I think that the NDC has shown a long-term commitment, and we continue to do that. We have been measured even in opposition. We have been very careful in government. And today, the successes of the traditional NDC is that every public university in the Fourth Republic is accredited to the NDC. For me, that's a great thing. Every regional and teaching hospital in the Fourth Republic is the legacy of the NDC. You've never had the political tradition in the Fourth Republic that has built more secondary schools than the NDC. For the first time, the quaternary hospital that we have in Ghana, which is the UGMC, is the brainchild of the NDC. And so...
You say it's promoting medical tourism?
Yes. In fact, that is the vision, to build a 6,000-bed. And so Ghana becomes the medical hub to all other African countries. Until very recent times, our education was another hub. And I don't know what has been happening to it. And so people are going more to South Africa. But in our time when we were in tech, you could see the number of Nigerians. And
everybody wanted to come and experience.
And if you had a certificate from Ghana, it was a lot.
You say it's different now?
Yeah, it's very different. I don't know I don't have any scientific basis to talk about why the difference, but it's not as...
You say when you test the temperature and the pulse, that's just the feedback you get?
It's not even the feedback. That is supported by data. But why it is so, whether for economic reasons or whatever, I can't tell.
Right.
But there has been a sharp decline. And so it's important that, I keep saying that we can do our politics as politicians, but we cannot do politics with development. And so we can decide to say that we want to build regional hospitals. The approach should be different.
Right.
And we can debate the approach, but we cannot do politics with the substance of our light and our development. Because this morning when I bought fuel at almost 78 cedis a gallon, nobody asked me whether I was NDC or MPP.
That's
the fuel
right.
attendant didn't know me, even though I'm always on TV. They couldn't make me out to say, oh, is that Beatrice? No. It's just, I'm buying fuel, I'm buying kenke, I'm buying bread, I'm paying the rent, I'm doing this. So if the economy is good, it's good for all of us. if the economy is bad, it's bad for all of us. And I'm just coming from the studios of TV3 where we've been discussing galamsey.
That's right. It's very topical.
Yeah.
This week especially.
And I think we are not even angry enough. If I tell you what is happening and the extent of the degradation and the potential threats that we face as a people, if you don't take care, you cannot wait for December 7th to change government. And this is not the NDC. You see, President Nkrumah had issues with galamsey, for instance. He did what he did, and I'm referencing him because he's the first president of Ghana. And then I'm sure all the military juntas had their issues. In the Fourth Republic, President Rawlings had his issues with galamsey. And then you had President Kufuor, who is also an MPP person, having issues with galamsey, doing his best. You have President Mills and then President Mahama.
So you acknowledge it's a canker that we've dealt with throughout.
I acknowledge that. But what we haven't seen before is the levels of impunity and degradation and the levels of destruction to our water bodies and environment because government itself is complicit. In the past, you would not find appointees of President Nkrumah engaged in galamsey. What you had were citizens doing galamsey and then government fighting the citizens. And even with that, they were using very unsophisticated machinery because they just wanted gold. They sell it for something small, then they go back and all that. And so you didn't have issues with our water body. I have pictures and videos of River Pra, River Tano, and all that, even in 2016 before the NDC exited power. So we fight and we talk about the fight against galamsey because we think that is a bad thing. But never have we seen the negligent levels of impunity with so much disregard. And in law, we say the wanton disregard for human lives, that it matters not what the implications are. It doesn't matter if everybody would die. It doesn't matter if babies are being born with deformities. It doesn't matter if we have to import water by 2030. It doesn't matter that people are dying. As long as government officials are making money. And I think that as a people, there has to be a limit to where we want money to, because money is not everything.
So you agree that it's also a shared responsibility?
It's not a shared responsibility. You see, you, myself, and every listener and viewer across the world must reject the narrative that it's a shared responsibility.
Why is that, Beatrice?
It's not a shared responsibility.
Because citizens, like you say, citizens are in the pits.
Citizens are committing armed robbery every day.
That's right.
Is that a shared responsibility? Citizens are committing murder every day. Is that a shared responsibility?
Would you not say, using that analogy, that citizens also have to be, let's say, vigilant, call out those in the community who are doing the armed robbery, for example?
What will you and I do about that? What would you and I do? What we can do is that we pay our taxes and we vote for a government in the hope that because we cannot do anything, and because we are helpless, and because we have very varied views about how things should be done, at a certain point in time, we clothe you with all the capacity that can be to deal with every menace in society. And so when you have a government throwing back the responsibility at you, it tells you the government has failed. And you see, this shirking of responsibility and this call for collective responsibility is a very lame excuse government is using to cover up its failures. We were in this country when we had the COVID funds. The COVID funds never came to you and I as citizens. And so if we had a shared responsibility, we ought to have the shared, enjoyment. But it didn't come to you and I. Government decided how to use the money. Government decided to use it, some to give to their party people, the parliamentary candidates, and the Auditor General report confirms that monies were misused in very varied ways.
Right.
Government says that although that kind of reckless spending had a very major effect on our economy, we are not responsible. It's COVID-19. It's Russia, Ukraine. And anytime something happens, the government says that, oh, it's a shared responsibility. What will the citizens do then to speak against it? And we have all been speaking against it. Everybody has been speaking against it. This morning on every major platforms, and everybody is speaking about galamsey, and on social media, young people are tweeting and they are posting and they are saying what they can be, what can be said for them to be heard. So it stops with government.
Would you say it also then finally stops really with the president? There are also many who say the president said, I am prepared to put my presidency on the line. So, for example, we've heard the Honorable Minister Samuel Jinapor speaking yesterday, addressing the press and, making certain, pronouncements on calls by CSOs and the like. And the rebuttal there is that, well, this falls directly on the doorstep of the president. Beatrice, you agree with that?
You see, the president has the ultimate responsibility, and he said it, and the bar stops with him. But this president, Al Jazeera has told us, is complicit in the galamsey. Al Jazeera, in a documentary, said that the president has a friend who smuggles gold in excess of $40 million out of this country on a monthly basis. And that is a very huge allegation against the president of the republic.
Well, the presidency wrote to Al Jazeera
and said we'll sue Al Jazeera.
That's right.
It's been more than a year, no suit. So what should be the conclusion? Not just the president's minister for environment, then Professor Frimpong Boateng, who was the chairman of the interministerial committee, said the president, the people engaged in the galamsey, destroying our water bodies, our environment, and threatening the very lives of the citizens who voted for you are at the presidency. And further mention names.
That's right.
So that it doesn't become that, oh, these people are just at the presidency. The chairman actually mentioned names and even went ahead to tell you other people who were members of parliament, like Prof. Kwan, in the report, and said that these people are engaged in galamsey, including your backyard in Chebi. What has been the outcome? We were told that the Ashanti regional chairman of the MPP, Chairman Wuntumi, who is the owner of the Akunta mining, the minister tells us, did not have the requisite mining leases to engage in the illegal mining that he was engaged in. And the president quickly came out to say that, oh, they had the valid mining lease. Do you think this president is fighting galamsey? And, to add insult to injury and to tell the Ghanaian people, we don't care what happens to you. As long as we make our money, we are okay. And to hell with you. You know what has happened? Dr. Baumia has appointed a special campaign coordinator, Mreku Duka, to be in charge of mining and mining communities.
That's right.
I'm so scandalized. We've run campaigns in this country from 1992. We've never seen such an appointment. I don't know what it means.
So you're scandalized?
I'm scandalized. There has to be an end to our recklessness. Some way, somehow, even as political parties, we don't have to set bad precedent. We don't have to. There has to be a limit to the recklessness. There has to be a limit to how we will be emboldened to be doing the right thing. It's so sad because at the time they are making this appointment, the NDC and President Mahama were in the Bono region, specifically the Bono East.
That's where you've been the last couple of days.
In the last 11 days, we've been in the Bono regions, the Bono East and the Bono region itself, where they are complaining about their cocoa farms being lost to illegal mining. They're saying that even their cashew, they plant a lot of cashew, and cashew is on the threat. And farmers are complaining that the cost of farm inputs, fertilizers, seedlings, the spraying for those things are so expensive that they can't even keep up. And so the businesses are dying. The NDC is preaching a number of policies like the farm service support centers. We're preaching restoring the free fertilizer because it is an eyesore that our cocoa sector, which is the only sector that is holding our economy today, has collapsed.
And Beatrice, I definitely want to come to the manifesto in due course, but quickly as we round up on galamsey, because we're eager to also find out how the momentum of the campaign has picked up. I was just playing Kathleen Addy of the NCC's voice before you came in, and she's urging Ghanaians to find out what policy ideas and what strategies that those seeking our mandate have as far as galamsey is concerned. What is the NDC's plan to nip this canker in the bud? As you've explained to us, galamsey has been with us for many years, and it appears that fighting it has become an uphill battle. What does the NDC say?
Okay, so first of all, the NDC will prevent political appointees from engaging in galamsey, because under President Mahama, under President Rawlings, President Kufuor, and President Mills, no known political appointee, whether close to the presidency or in any ministerial position, has been engaged.
At least that we know of, Beatrice.
No known.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. No known. Because if there are things that you don't even do it with impunity, because of the public aversion towards that. So we don't know of any. Even in the past MPP,
right,
we didn't know of any. What we knew were people who were citizens, and that is why they were not using the sophisticated machines.
Right.
But what we have now are political appointees, parliamentary candidates, ministers of state, mayors engaging, and even MMDCs who are supposed to be in charge of the security in the various districts. So that is where we will do that. And so if there are no political appointees there, the president will have the political will to fight it. Secondly, what the NDC will do, as contained in our manifesto, is to reclassify mining leases. Today we have the major mining companies, and then we have small-scale miners. And then people go under the guise of small-scale mining, and they are doing more or less like medium-scale mining and not necessarily small. And so you have to reclassify that so that you are able to track. Now, it's important that we amend the laws. President Mahama has been speaking about the reclamation bond, where a mining lease will only be granted if the company deposits and continuously deposits a certain amount of money, so that at the expiration of the mining lease, the company will have an obligation to reclaim the land, which means that you have to fill all the pit and plant the trees. If you refuse to do that at your own cost, then the money you have paid as bonds will be used to do that. Because in the past, you saw a lot of reclamation, and that is why you never saw the River Tano, the River Pra, the River Cobra, and all that in the states they were in now. So that we have to do. Then we'll use what we call the Blue Water Initiative.
The Blue Water Initiative.
The Blue Water Initiative. What that means is that there has to be an aggressive reform to make sure that we restore all our water bodies to their original state. And that will mean that we will ban mining in forest reserves. You know what this government did? So the NDC will ban mining in forest reserves.
All mining in forest reserves. So then that goes towards repealing, what is that, LI?
Yes, LI 2462.
2462, repealing
yes,
it.
You see, because you see, that LI was passed in 2022. But before 2022, this government had already allowed companies to go into all 47 forest reserves we have in Ghana to start mining. Then the media coalition against illegal mining started the war in 2018 and said that we cannot destroy our forest. So to give a legal backing to the illegal act, they then promulgated this LI so that the minister will have a basis.
When you say they, this was passed by Parliament.
Yes, you know how LIs are passed by Parliament. The moment the LI is laid, Parliament can't do anything about it. LIs are not acts where it goes through the first reading.
Okay.
It goes through, but are you talking about Parliament passing laws?
Yes, I am.
This is the Parliament that even passed the Family Values Act, and the president has refused to accent to it. Even where we agree that as a people, there is something that we don't want to engage in, so let's pass this. And we are told that this time Parliament unanimously passed this law. The president is not accenting. So the buck stops with the president. So, and even in this...
I only throw that in because every now and again, I'm sure you hear that critique that after things have been passed in Parliament, the minority side, and I don't even know if we can call you minority side, seem to want to extricate themselves from, decisions made.
On this note, you cannot blame Parliament because the LI is laid by the minister. And when the LI is laid, after 21 days, it becomes law. They are not allowed to, debate it, or if anything, they are pre-laying engagements that they can be engaged.
So it's the NDC's position that is something that they would simply not allow.
You see, sometimes let's not assume that everybody is stupid except the MPP, for want of a better expression. These forest reserves have been there from time immemorial. Do they think that all presidents who have come before them, including President Kufuor, is so dumb that they couldn't have given mining leases to their party people to mine in the forest? That is why it has even affected our rainfall pattern. And today we are talking about drought.
In fact, the experts call it ecocide.
Yes.
Ecocide.
Yes. And you see, it is even in tandem with what they wanted to do to the Achimota forest. And Professor Frimpong Boateng, who is not a member of the NDC, who is a member of the MPP, says that is the basis and the foundation for how the fight against galamsey got lost. Because when the president issued a directive, the minister flouted the directive. And here, let me say that I am also at the presidency. President Mahama has been a former president, so I know how things run there. There is no way your president will give a directive and a minister, a chief of staff, howsoever described in government, would have the effrontery and the temerity to flout that directive unless the president is aware. It can never happen, even here in Media General. Can Mrs. Misuse give a directive? And then you say that, no. We say in our local parliament, who born dog? So it tells you the duplicity of this government, that this government is not committed to fighting.
You say this is two-faced. We're hearing one story here, another there.
It is not even two-faced. It is so
six-faced.
It is so clear that the government is not committed to fighting the menace of galamsey. And not only galamsey, in every sector of the economy, in every aspect of our lives. Look at what happened at a time when bondholders, having worked and saved all their monies, the government just said that, you know what, we are in debt, so for some reason you must take a haircut.
In fact, Beatrice, you enumerate some of these things on your X page. I was hovering. You talk about, you say, unprecedented corruption, naked thievery, wanton dissipation of our collective future. You talk about state capture. You enumerate negligence, arrogant conduct of public officials, a lack of seriousness attached to handling our economic difficulties, the destruction of our environment and water bodies, amongst others. Some would say you've scored the government F.
I didn't score the government F. Our lives have scored the government F. You see, I keep saying that we should not do politics with everything. And so if it's pro-development, we ought to commend the government and say that we deserve more. When the NDC was in power, President Mahama added 77 million gallon production of water to the national production. I can give you a list of the water projects that the NDC engaged in. That gave us the 77 million gallons of water per day. The Kpong Water Supply Expansion Project, Phase 1, added 40 million gallons of water a day. The Accra Tema Metropolitan Area Water Supply, which we call the ATMA, added 9.2 million gallons. The Teshinwa Desalination Project, I stayed in Teshinwa for my whole life until I married. It added 13.2 million gallons a day. The Insawam Water Project, which added 1.7 million. The Isatri Water Project, the 5-town water project, which is the Chibi, Osenase, Enyinam, Apega, and Kwaben, which is Nanado's hometown. The Kumasi Water Supply Project, Barakasi, added 6 million. The Asante Mampong, even in the strongholds of the MPP. This is the NDC's record. With all these projects, the production capacity was at 70%. And President Mahama was aiming to expand it because even in the Bunu regions, in the areas like Atebubu and the rest, they don't have water. What we have today is that the water company is telling us that production has declined by more than 30%.
That's right.
And if care is not taken, we'll have to import water by 2030. That's just about 6 years from now.
Very scary projections.
Very scary. So if you are a government and you haven't been able to add anything, then do not destroy that which you inherited. And that's even the argument you've been making. That even if you cannot add on, then don't destroy. If you came to meet the fight for galamsey at a place, and you think that, oh, the previous government did so bad, and then at least don't make it worse. But how is it that you make our lives worse? How is it that even that which you inherited, you make it worse? And you say that we should applaud you. You see, we are at a crossroad as a people. And the only reason why you haven't seen a lot of uproar and what is happening in Kenya and other Middle East countries because the NDC has been a very responsible of opposition.
What do you mean by that, Beatrice?
When President Mahama was in power, you had the NPP say that if care is not taken, Afghanistan. You had Nanado saying there will be Arab Spring in Ghana, inciting people, the military and everything. You've heard President Mahama say that the military, please do not be up in arms. We will solve this through the ballot. And consistently, you can see that the NDC has been very responsible in how we have carried ourselves, but it seems that the government is taking the patience of Ghanaians for a ride. Because, my dear, how is it that we live in the country where our currency has so depreciated that we are being told that in excess of 850,000 people have been pushed down the poverty line? We live in the country where this government, in the face of COVID-19, was not able to construct one polyclinic in memory of the COVID-19 with all the over 21 billion cedis we had. How is it that this government, in the face of the excruciating hardship, used in excess of 69 million cedis on presidential private jet, and the people, some way, somehow, we haven't vandalized the country?
Now, Beatrice, you talk about hospitals, COVID era, Agenda 111. You heard the president. He was in our homes. He said, fellow Ghanaians, this is what I have in store.
So do you know of any completed Agenda 111?
I am not aware of that.
There isn't any, my dear. There isn't. there isn't any hospital completed. So we cannot speak about any hospital. You know, in the run-up to the 2016 election, by this time in September, the NPP had named President Mahama as a Commissioner General because that was the time UGMC was commissioned.
So there was a lot of sword cutting happening.
No, there was a lot of commissioning. That's not even sword cutting is when you're going to start the project.
The project, okay.
But this time the projects were done. And they were like, oh, Commissioner General, you're everywhere commissioning project. At a point, they even said, we don't chew roads. They made those very unguarded statements. Today, they don't even have anything to commission. And in all these, the people have been patient with you. But that's
a few projects have been commissioned. Some housing for security personnel, at least I've seen that. We saw a hostel for Kayaye, which was commissioned. Which is why do you laugh? You saw them passing out.
No,
they had some 3 weeks training. They passed out.
With a resource envelope of 1 trillion. You know 1 trillion? 1 trillion. President Mahama had 200 and something billion for the entire time he was in power. And I can tell you the Rich Hospital, the Terminal 3, the UGMC.
Is this resonating with Ghanaians when you go out to campaign? How has the momentum been?
There is so much anger in the system. There is so much anger and frustration, the excruciating levels of hardship. And if you speak to very many young people, 2 days ago at our last place in Abesim, I think, there were 4 guys who were standing somewhere. They weren't clad in party shirts, so I figured they were not party people. So I moved to them and I was saying, hey, boys, what's happening? And if you listen to the state of hopelessness of these young people, if you listen to how there seems to be no hope and no future, it should tell you that maybe government officials, because they've made so much money, are so detached from the realities.
In fact, Beatrice, because you mentioned Professor Frimpong Boateng, he had something very impactful to say. I picked it, I think, last year, and it stayed with me. He says, the young people of Ghana have a future they can no longer afford to postpone. And you say when you've been out on the field, you are feeling that palpably.
Yeah. You see, the recent times I was driving and I met my lawyer friend who was standing by the roadside. So I just waved. So I moved, thinking he will move. He didn't. So I came back and said, oh, are you going somewhere? He said, yes. He had ordered an Uber and he was waiting. There is absolutely nothing wrong picking an Uber. I pick Uber myself.
Right.
In fact, I like to pick Uber than to drive because I don't like driving. And then I asked, oh, is your car, what's wrong? And he said, the battery of my car is spoiled. And I jokingly said, lawyer, go and do bail and buy the battery. And he said, Charlie, I don't have money. And I asked how much is the battery. And then he said 700 cedis. This is a lawyer who is 5 years at the bar, who cannot afford battery for the car, because if he looks at his salary, if he buys the battery at the time that his car is spoiled. So look at this person who is a lawyer, who is supposed to be creme de la creme of society. How much more the young people who have just completed first degrees, who just finished their national service, which national service for the first time in the history of our country is in arrears for months. It's never happened. As for national service, because it's a stipend, it goes. If you would delay maybe a week or something, you are talking about months where even national service, the center cannot hold. There is anarchy and pain in the
fact,
country.
Something you said, I don't even know if it was this year or last year. I recall it going viral because you had been quoted wrongly or something along those lines. You were saying that young men can't even afford to get married.
They can't afford to get married. I have a lot of friends. And when I say this, it doesn't appear like a reality to people, but it is the painful reality of many people that some of them are even in relationships for 5 years. But if they are coming together, it means that they are both leaving their parents and they have to rent a room, and a single room in Accra is between 700 to 800. And if both are earning 2,000 and their household income is 4,000, how long would you save to be able to even afford a kente? Assuming you won't even do wedding. And you want to do the traditional marriage. there is everything wrong with our country. It's not politics. And the government is gaslighting us. The government is telling us that it is better for us to be buying dollar at 16 cedis to $1 than to buy it at 4 cedis to $1. I mean, how do you say this? I mean, any responsible government will say that we agree that 16 cedis is higher. But you don't tell me that 16 cedis is better than 4 cedis. It's better to buy kenke at 5 cedis than to buy it at 50 pesos. It's better to buy fuel at 78 cedis than to buy it at 14 cedis per gallon. I mean, how do we even accept this narrative as right-thinking members of society? It is a very dangerous narrative. And the government has a certain strategy. And I'm very confident that the Ghanaian people will make us proud. Because you see, in this election, it's not about the NDC winning so much, though that is also very important, but it's about the future of our country and the precedent we will serve to all political parties. Ghanaians and everybody must punish bad governance, so that both political parties must learn that when you come into power, you owe it a sacred duty and an obligation to your people that you have to make lives better than you came to meet it. So that at every time when we are meeting and discussing at the political table, the overriding consideration will be that development our goal. But the MPP has a strategy.
What is the strategy?
The strategy is that going into the election, do a lot of vote buying. On the campaign trail, bring the famous musicians Ken Paluta, Amrado, Samini, Sarkodie, and all those big musicians and spend so much money. Excite the young people, excite the youth. I mean, sing all the fanciful songs, share money. Let the people forget about the 8 years of the destruction that has happened to the economy.
You think that's possible? A few songs, a bit of money can wipe away that?
Yes, and that's the
that track record.
And that's why they're gaslighting. You mentioned galamsey. They say, oh, ask the NDC what they did. After 8 years, we should go back and ask the NDC what they did after 8 years when things are worse off than today. You mentioned the issue of economy and exchange rate. They tell you, oh, we've done better than the NDC.
You say the people are being gaslit.
Yes, it's just gaslighting. Let's keep repeating a certain narrative. Let's keep saying that however frivolous it is, with time, people will just...
How does the NDC counteract that?
We counteract it by telling the people our message. We tell them that take the monies. We were in a synod together, and I believe that the people of Ghana will be like that synod people. In a synod, not that somebody said, not that somebody whispered. I saw these. I was in a synod for 21 days. I saw all these things with my naked eyes, where monies were put in bullion vans, in the cars of ministers.
That is not something the NDC will be doing?
Where are we going to get the money? Let me show you. Let me make that point and demonstrate to you why the NDC is not the same as the NPP. They share these money, physical cash, 200 cedis each for young voters. For chiefs, it was different. For other people who were traders, it was different. But the people took the money and voted against the NPP. And for me, that's my consolation. And I want to use this medium to appeal to the church drivers. Do not forget the fact that you're buying fuel for 78 cedis today, and then take some 200 and 500 cedis and vote for these guys. You must punish misgovernance. For the young people whose destinies have been messed up because government is not committed to making huge and very painful investment that will yield future results, you take the money today and your life will get worse than... I keep saying that some people have other professions. If politics doesn't work, they will go back. But what about the many other people who have nothing to hold on to? That even the visa, they keep denying you. So you can't even go to any meaningful country. But let me say that the NDC can never be the same as the NPP. Let me give you the first example. In the run-up to the 2016 election, many people told President Mahama to spend money. In fact, a research had been done and showed that if you threw money in the system, you were likely to win the election. President Mahama said that will have a great repercussion on the economy, because at the time we had stabilized the economy and the economy was projected to grow at 8% because of the new oil additions we had added on and everything. When President Mahama went onto the international market, when we had all the monies, we put $250 million in the sinking fund. We never shared that money. We put the money in the stabilization fund. We could have shared it. We could have gone around and given everybody 500. The Heritage Fund, we never took the money out. The Ghana Infrastructural Fund, the monies we put in there because we had commenced huge infrastructural projects that needed to be funded. We had debts to be paid so that we don't give pensioners haircuts, and we wanted to do the right. In fact, the Bank of Ghana could have just printed money like we have seen them print over 77 billion cedis for this government. We never did that. There was zero financing from the Bank of Ghana, because we had a nation protect, much as the elections were also important. And that is why from 2017 and above, you saw the economic growth, you saw the currency stabilize, so, because we didn't want to erode the gains. The reason we are where we are is that in the run-up to the 2020 election, the government, realizing they were very unpopular, they had 126 ministers. The president was in chartered flight every time because he wanted to bat in the sky. And there were so many things, the scandals, the GMA, the minister, the CEO buying 11 ACs, and so many other scandals at the time. The government decided to distribute the COVID funds.
You say that's where all our COVID money went to?
That's where all our COVID money, and I'm not saying it for propaganda purpose. The Auditor General, the special audit by the Auditor General says that at the time when we had so much vaccines, and people did not even want to take the vaccination, and everybody was on the campaign encouraging people to take the vaccine, the government imported additional $80 million of vaccines.
To protect all of us.
Where are the vaccines? They never came. If they came, the argument would be that as I speak to you, the vaccines were never delivered. And even where they had to buy another vaccine, and the world, the WHO was warning everybody that don't buy this vaccine above $2 or so.
This is the Sputnik V saga where we bought
it for $10. They said the whole world, don't buy vaccines above this price.
On that particular issue, I do recall that if you bought it government to government, then you got that reduction. But some governments were not willing to do so. So they went, a bit backdoor, if you will.
It's never true. It's never true. At the time, we had a pandemic. Many governments, including the American government, and many health organizations were willing to donate. In fact, even Africa was the priority. So it is never true that there were no vaccines and they had to go and do this. No. So what I'm saying is that the NDC is not the same as the NPP. When we had resources just at Ridge, and the NDC had to make a decision, we built the Ridge Hospital Phase 1. They dug a hole for $932 million. What are you talking about?
That is the president's idea. He says he wants to build a national cathedral.
They defrauded even God.
Time check. It is some 10 minutes to the top of the hour, 10 a.m. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. We're wrapping up here with Beatrice Annan, private legal practitioner, also spokesperson on the John Dramani. Deputy. I don't want your boss to come and jost you this morning on the John Dramani Mahama 2024 campaign trail, and we've been talking about galamsey issues and also what the NDC has for Ghanaians. Beatrice, to wrap up this conversation, and we've certainly learned a thing or two about the NDC's plans, especially as far as galamsey is concerned. To end this conversation in a minute or two, Ghanaians want to know how they can hold the NDC accountable for promises made in this particular campaign if the party comes into power. We want to know, how do we joss you, as the terminology goes, based on what you are telling us now?
You see, the NDC is a political tradition that has been open to divergent views. If there is any politician who has been criticized in the history of the Fourth Republic, it's President Mahama. Under him, no journalist died because you criticized the president. In fact, many journalists who were his worst critics confessed to even receiving protection because of the imminent danger of the criticism. Today, in media general, Captain Smart is on record to have said that for all the lies which the MPP led, against President Mahama, the hate campaign and all that, he is apologizing because they were never true. Things like he bought houses in Dubai, he printed presidential diaries with 10 million CDs. They said that he was involved in the Airbus scandal. Today, the office of the OSP says that there is no evidentiary basis. So the NDC is a political tradition that is open to listening to you and not gagging you and holding us responsible.
And you've given us some timelines as well in this manifesto, 120 days and so on and so forth.
Days. We have what we will do in 14 days. But let me say that one thing that the NDC has done in this manifesto and in this election period is that we in the NDC recognize that we cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results.
It's called insanity.
It's called insanity. And so where we are going, we need to use different approach. So in this manifesto, and the governance specifically, the NDC is outlawing everybody who is politically exposed from buying state assets. So Brian Champon cannot come and buy our hotels because he thinks money.
He's kept his hands off.
Yeah, because what happened? It took the NDC and other people to lead advocacy. But for that, they would have bought the hotels. So you cannot do that. The NDC is saying that our party chairmen and ministers must not have access to scholarships. Like Freddie Blay and the other people are doing. Their children and ministers' children in the MPP. So we have taken that decision. The NDC is saying that we will run this whole campaign with 30 ministers, 30 deputy ministers, making 60. Because we and not just the number of ministers, we will cancel the DSTV payment, the electricity payment, the free fuel, because it becomes the height of insensitivity where you are asking pensioners to let go their money and ministers are enjoying. And so I want all Ghanaians to know that the NDC recognizes that we are not in normal times. The NDC recognizes that never in the history of our country have we been at the lowest levels as we find ourselves. And so we promise and we are committed to doing the right things. And we have a candidate who is an experienced man, who has been at the presidency before, who is telling you that in the first 14 days and 2 weeks, I would select my cabinet and we will hit the grounds running.
Amongst other timelines as well. And Beatrice, you say we can hold the NDC to these timelines.
I will be here.
Well, 3FM Sunrise listeners, you've heard it from Beatrice. And Beatrice, very grateful for your time this morning. This has been wonderful. I'm sure you'll be back again and we can talk some more about other issues and other matters arising. Do have a wonderful Thursday.